Welcome everybody, this is my first video. I'm Anthony Eshimera, otherwise known as Jubbs. Uh, I decided to start doing this because, I've been watching a lot of other people, do different podcasts and stuff like that, and I always thought it was very interesting, the whole idea of being able to speak your mind about different things that are going on, and I thought, it might be worth a chance for me to do it. People were saying that I'm ranting and talking about weird stuff, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to, say some things I had on my mind about various things, and I don't know, get people hyped about certain situations that maybe they just don't know about. Well, first off, people don't really know me because I know that I'm gonna be putting this up on YouTube, and besides the people that know me from personally from Facebook, probably don't know a lot about me. Um, I am just what I would call an aces jack of all trades nerd. I know quite a bit about lots of different things, lots of different fields: comic books, movies, music, video games, anime, whatever have you. And like I just have lots of fun with it. I personally don't delve deep enough to actually be so serious into it. So I mean, I'm not an otaku. I'm not, the comic book guy. I'm not like the serious gamer. I just know a lot about lots of stuff. I love electronics. I love the computers, and that's probably maybe one thing I know a lot about. But I still wouldn't, really consider myself uh, so experienced in that in anything specific. And I think that's very interesting because I'm able to give my perspective of it and not be so completely biased as I feel like a lot of people are. Like I said before, I mean, I started this podcast because I watch lots of different podcasts now. I have a few friends that do their own podcasts, and it seems really interesting. And I was actually I was actually listening to a podcast, or should I say, a Smodcast on the way home. And people not familiar with Smodcast, it's really Kevin Smith's line of podcasts, like him and his friends that do different things. And lately, I've just been addicted to Kevin Smith. I mean, overall, like he makes me laugh. I mean, like maybe I wasn't old enough necessarily to, fully respect the movies that he made when he was first coming out. So I mean, obviously I wasn't young enough to see Clerks in theaters or fully understand it when I first saw it. But now being older, I love all this. Well, pretty much all of his movies. I mean, and just him being a big person to Star Wars and comics and different things like that. And I really like him. And I mean, I've recently started getting into comics about a few years ago, and up until then, I was only really doing some X-Men, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I used to be a huge X-Men person. I mean, Iron Man was another favorite of mine. I guess now that I've been doing the whole comic book thing for about a few years now, I'm starting to see what else is out there. I'm delving into other things that aren't part of the Marvel DC universe, and there's lots of stuff out there, and it's really, sorry to use the word so much, but it's really interesting to me. Um, but yeah, so one of my favorites is his series Comic Book Men, and he has his own comic book store, Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash, which is out in New Jersey. Just recently, I'm not sure if this was last year when they did it, him and his friends who run the business, they have their own TV show on AMC called Comic Book Men. And basically what they do is it's kind of like Pawn Stars in a way, where the people come in and they try to sell their comics to these comic book nerds that run this store, and you learn a lot about the history of comics and how things became the way that they are, and it's really interesting. But one of the things I like that's different from it, though, is the fact that they show people buying the comics. So you don't just see oh hey, I just found these comics in the middle. I just found them, in my attic, and I just wonder if they were worth something. You actually meet a lot of the people who are really into the whole comic world. And that to me is just amazing to see these people who look like average Joes, and they come out and they reveal information about themselves. Um, but the other cool thing is that it has them doing their own podcast. Like, actually, it shows the video of them in the radio station doing their podcast, and I mean it's just really funny, the stuff that they talk about. This particular one that I was listening to was live from New York Comic Con, which I am I'm upset that I wasn't able to go. I wasn't able to get enough money, find a place to stay, all that stuff, to just go to the New York Comic Con, which is something I really want to do. So this is them live in the New York Comic Con doing their own panel, doing a live recording, because the Comic Book Man Season 2 just started, so they're trying to get, more popularity with that. But one of the topics that they talked about, that they brought up, just I don't know, just seemed like, you know what, I'm gonna make this my topic for, or at least I'm gonna bring this up in my podcast that I wanted to make, which was, when you were a kid, what was that one toy that you really liked? And you're sitting there and you're listening to these people that were born in the 70s and the 80s, talking about the toys that they had, like like the different action figures, and having a bicycle was a big deal, and for somebody who was having the Atari, and just how excited they were. And they brought up some toys that I remembered as a kid, and it made me realize that generations are so different. I mean, like, obviously the whole technology factor, but more than that, it's also the whole what is cool at the time. And I mean, Ming, the Asian guy who's the youngest of the group, was the one that won the Atari, and I'm like, even that is old for me. When I was much younger, I think, if I would say the toy that I loved the most was the original NES. And I'm not going to go on a huge rant about how, oh my god, Mario was the best, I used to jump up and down when I pressed the A button and shit like that. Because you know what? Everybody does that. Everybody talks about their youth with Mario. Everybody who's grown up with the video games, even, it doesn't matter what generation, even the generation that's coming out now, has affiliation with Mario. He is able to jump the gap in just about any generation. If you were born in the time of video games, whether you were born in the 80s or you were born in the 2000s, you're going to have some relationship with Mario. You're going to feel something when you play a Mario game. So I'm just going to skip that. But it's just the whole... When I was a kid, I thought that the NES was the thing. I thought that everybody had an NES. I thought that, that was the latest and greatest thing out there. And it wasn't until, I was like... I think I was like 9? I don't remember, whenever the N64 came out. That's right, I bypassed the entire Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. I remember my cousin had a Sega Genesis, and that was really big, but all we really ever played was Sonic and Mortal Kombat. I had another person who had the Super Nintendo, but the only game that they had was Mario All-Stars. And I didn't know that I didn't know that NES was that old. I didn't. And now that I think about it, I remember going to lots of different yard sales and getting all these games for so cheap. Because when you look at the cost of video games right now, you're like, wow, they're expensive, $60. But then again, even though people maybe I don't know, maybe they weren't paying $60 back back when the NES and the Super Nintendo and all that stuff was big, but in the economy back then is similar to people paying $60. It's a lot of money. Even $40, it's a lot of money. But when we go to the art sales, we were getting packs and packs of video games for like $5. So by the time I was 12, even though I had the NES, I had the N64, I had a PS2. I still played my NES all the time. And I think I had over 30-something games. I know I had enough to fill an entire box, and I remember I didn't have any of the actual cardboard boxes. I never even knew that when you bought a game, it came with a cardboard box. I didn't know that. The only thing I knew was the cartridge itself. I didn't know about manuals. In fact, I remember we had the Game Genie, and the funny thing about the Game Genie is that you were supposed to be able to take your cartridge, put the game Genie in, and throw that into your Nintendo. But I thought the codes were just like obvious. So I remember as a kid, we used to type in infinite lives into our games. We didn't know that there was GGXWRQ, whatever, because we had the book, the book that gave us all the codes. But whenever we would find the book, we would lose the Game Genie. And whenever we would find the Game Genie, we would lose the book. Not to mention that the Game Genie comes with when you stick it into the cartridge, it has like an extra handle that you can like grip onto, and the handle broke off. So whenever we would find the Game Genie and we would decide to play with it, if you put the Game Genie in the console, that's going to be stuck in there for weeks. And I remember I used to have my uncle fix my NES like almost every other month because we were just playing it so obsessively that something would crap out on it. But, you know, that's really what you remember. And even though that was my childhood, it was somebody else's childhood. It wasn't really my childhood. My childhood was probably supposed to be Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis, but my childhood was more about playing all the Mario games. So when I was a kid, all the Mario games were already out there. I missed the whole excitement about Super Mario 3. I missed the excitement about Mega Man 1, 2, and 3. Those games were already out. Nothing was new. In fact, I think that Super Nintendo was actually not really making new games at the time, or it was starting to die out actually. But that I could be mistaken on that one. But I mean, it's just so interesting because I mean, like even when I got the N64, I remember being so excited for it, and I got Mario 64, and I got Zelda Ocarina of Time. And I remember that was the first time that I ever received a brand new video game. Besides Game Boy. Game Boy is something different. I'll talk about that later. But the N64 was the first cartridge. It was the first home console that I got things for. In fact, I didn't even know that for the NES that most of the games that came out were arcade games. So I remember the first time I went to a classic arcade game, I saw all these old games I used to play. I'm like, oh my god, I didn't even know that this existed. And they were like, yeah, I mean, the NES was basically supposed to take all the fun games from the arcade so that you could play them in your house and have lots of fun. And I didn't know that. I thought they were original games. But the N64 was kind of like my awakening. It was basically, I was old enough to understand video games. I was old enough to understand a story. I was old enough to figure out how to play the game without, you know, pretending to press the A button a couple times. And there were just so many fun games for that system. And I remember all my friends had them too, and I used to go over their house. I mean, I was introduced to Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo. I was introduced to Paper Mario, which I thought was really fun. I was a huge fan of Snowboard Kids and Tony Hawk because those were the first games that incorporated some sort of soundtrack. Well, not Snowboard Kids. Sorry, I mean Tony Hawk. Those were the first games that introduced some sort of soundtrack. Being raised in Dorchester, you're kind of limited to the amount of music that you're introduced to because everybody expects you to listen to some sort of rap or hip hop music, and I wasn't into that. My parents were, well, at least my dad was hugely into classic rock, so I was raised on a lot of Santana music and Creedence Clearwater Revival, pretty much whatever was on 100.7 WZLX, the classic rock radio station. That's really all I knew. And to move on, to move on, the PS2. Well, when I got that, that was another huge thing because I was able to play a lot of games. But the Tony Hawk series is something that I will always treasure because it gave me the ability to listen to a soundtrack, listen to music I never heard before, and say, I really like this. Like the first time I was playing Tony Hawk 3 and I heard the song Amoeba, crazy. I was like, what the is this noise? I love it. This isn't rap, this isn't hip hop, this is a guitar, but it's not old, it's new, and it's not, Pop Kiss 108. Uh, it's punk music, and I never heard that before. Blink-182, Sum 41, all these, yes, they're pop punk bands, but but in my age, when you weren't really introduced to any of these music, this is a big change. And I mean, like, people talk crap about, like, when Skate came out, people were like, oh, Tony Hawk is so stupid, it's not realistic. Of course it's not realistic, that's what I love about it. When will you ever be able to grind down and do a gajillion loop-de-loops and grind infinite times and revert and do all that stuff and get crazy shit ton of points? You can't do that, because what's the point of playing something that you can probably do in real life? If I really wanted to, if I really tried, I could probably learn to skate. Not anything close to what you can do on skate, I'll admit that, but just the whole basics. I mean, I'm sure I could learn how to do it. And my other favorite besides Tony Hawk was SSX, because that had a mind-blowing soundtrack. SSX 3. There's just so many good things. It's first time I ever heard a lot of the other stuff that I got into, and it was able to help me branch off. It wasn't until I was in high school, leaving to go to college, that I was able to say, you know what? I want music to be a little bit bigger in my life, and I want to actually get to know it. Even now, I mean, I've been in college for 5 years, so yeah, you go to different schools. But I was able to learn about lots of different types of music, and for me, punk was always a huge thing for me. I wasn't necessarily the kind of person to, run around going, oi, 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 I'm gonna fuck up the government or whatever, but it's just a lot of fun. I like the history of it. I like what it represented at the time, and I did a big research project in school for it, and I got like an A+ for it, and that was amazing. And even though I'm talking about the actual history of punk music and how things became to be, I still look back on games like SSX and Tony Hawk, because if I never played those games, I never would have even known that this music existed. They're good launching points, which makes me angry why when people see people playing Rock Band and they go, oh, Rock Band's so much cooler, Rock Band's so cool, or Guitar Hero is so cool, I'm gonna learn how to play an instrument. And people are like, oh, you're just a poser, you just want to play all those stupid songs you heard on Guitar Hero. Yeah, because they were fun. And I mean, why are you complaining about that, people who played video games want to play the real instrument? Or why are you complaining that, people are training themselves to hit these plastic buttons? I mean, these games have been around for so long, even before Guitar Hero. I mean, for Christ's sakes, I don't know where it is, but I have a game controller for a Japanese rhythm game that came out a long time ago, and I mean, like, it's still a popular game that's still being played now. My God, I think I just went from talking about my favorite toy to music. Hmm. Cool. I actually like this. This is pretty interesting. I'm like challenging myself now. Um, you know what? I think I don't want to make this a long video because I'm just starting off on this, but I'm having a lot of fun doing this. So I guess I'll just say that this week, even though I missed New York Comic Con, there's something for me to look forward to, which is the AAC, which is another anime convention, and that's going to be in New Hampshire. It used to be in Nashua, in the Radisson, but they decided to move it, and I think that's a good idea because honestly, the hotel looks beautiful on the outside. I'll admit that, but the amenities and the conditions and how they treat people and everything, it's a shit hotel. It is not a good hotel, and I think this is one of the first hotels that they went to before they got popular, but now they're coming back to it or something like that. That's what I heard the rumor. I've only been going for 3 years, and they've always been at the Radisson. This is going to be the first time where they moved back to Manchester, and I'm really looking forward to it because I would like to see what else there is. Plus, two things. My girlfriend Jen finally has a car. Like she's always had a car, but the funny thing is like whenever it comes time for AAC or any other conventions that we have to leave for, her car breaks down. So this is going to be our first time having a car at a convention, being able to do our own things. Not only that, but not being stuck in the middle of nowhere. We're actually right in the middle of town. So if we wanted to, we can definitely, go hit a restaurant or whatever else is in New Hampshire. I mean, I don't know if it's in New Hampshire, maybe a pawn shop or something. I'm a big pawn shop, flea market kind of guy. Um, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for me. I mean, I'm really excited about going to AAC, and I was hoping to be Henchman 21 for the convention, but we ran into some problems making the costume and stuff like that. But that's okay. My girl though, she's gonna be Moss from the IT crowd, which holy holy crap, she looks amazing. Um, she's got the hair and everything. That's gonna be the hardest thing to pull off, but she did a very good job for it. Like she just did it in the mirror for like a couple seconds, but it was pretty cool. Um, so I'm really looking forward to that. I don't know if they released the events that are going to happen, but I'm planning to go to the ones that I went to last time. I'm hoping that there's going to be a bad anime um, panel and the bit music panel. Even though I don't do bit music, it was still really fun listening to those guys. Um, I definitely want to check out the AMVs, and I'm so pissed because there are so many AMVs that I said that I wanted to do, and I completely forget about them. And every time I walk around and I hear the song, I go, oh, I was gonna make an AMV out of this. And then I go, you know what? I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna bust out the computer and find those videos and find that song and do whatever it takes. I'm gonna make that AMV, and I never do. And yet I see these people making the AMVs, and they make some really cool ones. Um, maybe that's something to look forward to. Maybe I can try doing that for next year or something. Um, AB's coming up in April, so April, May, February. I know they moved it because they didn't want to be on the same time as PAX, or did PAX move to fit Anime Boston? I don't know. I'm just glad that they're not on the same weekend this time. That was kind of annoying. Um, yeah, I mean that's pretty much it right now. Um, I guess the next time that I come on, I'll definitely talk about some new stuff that's going on, like the comics that are being released, different animes that have been released this season, things like that. But I guess maybe I'll do a shooting or something like that. Not shooting, but I'll do a video for the AAC and just show up some cosplayers and stuff that are going on. So, thanks for tuning in with me. This is Anthony, or Jubbs, and this is the first video, and I'm hoping to make many more of this. I had fun, so thanks for listening.